Tonight, millions of Americans digging out after a massive winter storm swept across the country. Snow falling on more than a dozen states, from Tennessee to Maine. Cars spinning out in Massachusetts, where more than an inch of snow fell every hour. Schools closed in several cities, and now the region bracing for dangerously low temps. Some areas could feel like negative 30 degrees. Just in tonight, the White House reportedly finalizing a plan with the U.S. Postal Service to mail out those long-promised at-home tests. How soon could they be at your door? But it comes as the number of Americans hospitalized reached its highest level in a year. The exclusive footage from inside an ICU in Maryland pushed to the brink. Shoot to kill, the alarming message from Kazakhstan's president, now ordering security forces to kill protesters. As deadly clashes erupt over fuel prices, the new images of Russian military vehicles lined up to be deployed as Putin sends several thousand troops across the border. Our Richard Engel joins Top Story tonight. AirTag stalking? The model who says she was stalked by a stranger after he planted one of the Apple devices on her at a bar. Other women sharing similar stories. Our Vaughn Hilliard puts the product safety feature to the test. Plus, the debate over a transgender swimmer at UPenn after record-breaking wins. The Ivy League and UPenn now issuing statements in support, saying she has met all protocols to compete, while some say the rules are too loose for an authentic competitive atmosphere. And burning car rescue, police unable to put out the flames to get a trapped driver. The maneuver they used to save her life. Top Story starts right now. And good evening, I'm Tom Llamas. We begin Top Story tonight with that fast-moving winter storm dropping more than a foot of snow in parts of the country. Snow and ice falling across the Northeast. Take a look, and Mid-Atlantic just in time for this morning's commute. The storm turning deadly after icy roads caused this deadly crash off a highway in Freetown, Massachusetts. The same system also bringing some record-breaking snowfall to the south, more than 6 inches of snow blanketing Nashville. On the West Coast, drivers in Washington rescued from the tops of their cars after they became fully submerged in floodwaters. Snow melt and heavy rain leading to several rivers to overflow. But tonight, the concern over dangerously cold temps as an Arctic blast moves in from the Midwest to the Northeast. Let's get right to NBC's Kathy Park.
Tonight, millions are digging out.
I always look forward to the first snow.
After wintry weather slammed more than a dozen states, from Tennessee to Maine. The Northeast blasted with heavy snow, ice, and freezing temperatures early this morning. New Jersey declaring a state of emergency. The treacherous travel spanning several states, including Massachusetts, where slick conditions sent cars sliding during the morning commute, with more than an inch of snow falling an hour. The fast-moving system started in the south, dumping more than half a foot of snow in parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. Nashville recording its snowiest day in 6 years. In West Virginia, more than a foot in some areas. The D.C. metro region, still reeling from Monday's storm that left drivers stranded for more than a day, got even more snow.
I hope it's not shut down for like 24 hours or 30 hours.
School canceled in several cities, including Nashville and Boston.
What have you been doing in the snow?
Making snow angels and having snowball fights.
Bone-chilling temperatures are settling in right behind the storm. From the Northeast to the Midwest, millions are bracing for dangerous lows over the weekend. Highs in the 20s and 30s, morning wind chills in the single digits. Some spots will feel like 30 below zero.
30 below zero. It is going to be a rough week ahead. Kathy Park joins us now from Boston. So, Kathy, you know, earlier in the week, we had that major snowstorm that hit in Virginia. It shut down the I-95 highway. Some people were stuck in their cars for more than 24 hours. We haven't really seen anything that bad with this storm, correct?
Tom, that's right. We did see some spinouts and crashes early this morning at the height of the storm when the visibility was extremely poor, but no repeat of what we saw in Virginia just a couple of days ago. In fact, here in Boston, crews were able to work quickly and efficiently to plow some of these major roads.
Kathy, we can see there's a lot of snow on the ground behind you. And I know you talked about this in your report, but tell us a little bit more about what to expect this weekend and next week as we hear that wind pick up where you are.
Yeah, Tom, I can tell you that the temperatures are falling and falling fast. It will be in the teens overnight, so we'll be dealing with some slick conditions come tomorrow morning. But we're also tracking some icy conditions on Sunday in parts of the Midwest and also the interior portions of the Northeast. So we could potentially see some icing on power lines and tree limbs, which could lead to some power outages. Tom?
All right, Kathy Park for us. Kathy, thank you. Now to the growing COVID crisis with Omicron surging around the U.S. Hospitals are facing record high cases combined with unprecedented staffing shortages. NBC News national correspondent Gabe Gutierrez went inside one hospital in Maryland that's been forced to declare a crisis standards of care. We should warn you, some of this video is very tough to watch.
When a patient's heart stops, seconds matter. This is a code blue, an older COVID patient, unvaccinated.
This is as urgent as it gets. This is the acute time frame where we're here trying to save someone's life.
The frantic scene as heartbreaking as it is familiar.
Everybody is a big bed, Mom. Bed night? Yep.
Nurse Angie Wheeler never imagined she'd still be so busy.
It's very tough. You go to the bathroom, you cry, and you come back. And you do it all over again.
This was supposed to be her day off. She came in anyway.
Why? Because I'm a nurse. I'm a nurse. And I signed up to be a nurse. My patients did not sign up for COVID.
Just outside D.C., Luminous Health Doctors Community Medical Center in Maryland has seen a 925% jump in COVID cases since Thanksgiving. About 70% of those patients are unvaccinated.
Right now, this ICU is over capacity. Most of the COVID patients here are intubated. What's different this time is that these healthcare workers are having to do more with less.
Nationwide, hospitalizations are also skyrocketing for kids too young for COVID shots. And the CDC director says the troubling trend in children under 5 underscores the need for adults to get vaccinated to help those around them.
Pediatric hospitalizations are at the highest rate compared to any prior point in the pandemic.
Around the country, nearly 1 in 4 hospitals are reporting a critical staffing shortage.
For us, that's what hurts the most, because the erosion of these care teams is invariably going to lead to an erosion of healthcare quality. And that's the sum of all fears for us.
Would you say that your resources are stretched thinner now than they have been during this entire pandemic?
Yes, I would.
Many people are ending up in hospitals for other reasons, not just COVID. In New York State, for example, 42% of hospitalized COVID patients weren't admitted because they were positive, but instead for other illnesses and were tested as part of the routine admissions process. Here in Maryland, we met 63-year-old Ned Epperson with pre-existing medical conditions who says he didn't get the shot because of what he now believes was misinformation from someone he trusted.
If you had to do it over again, would you get vaccinated?
Yes, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't think twice. Take the shot.
Back in the ICU, another stark reminder that almost 2 years into this pandemic, tonight many families are being given terrible news.
I'm so sorry to be calling you like this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what you're going through.
The patient who'd coded later died.
3 code blues already this morning, so it's very exhausting.
You just feel for those healthcare workers. It's been such a long 2 years and has not let up. Gabe Gutierrez joins us now. He's just outside of D.C. Gabe, I know you have an update tonight, some new reporting on the White House's plan to make it easier to get those at-home COVID tests, which they had promised would already be in the hands of Americans by now.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. The Biden administration has just awarded 2 contracts related to the tests. They'll be sent out through the Postal Service. Details are still being finalized, but the White House says they expect to provide more details next week, Tom.
All right, Gabe, thanks for that. And the fight against COVID doesn't stop at hospitals. The Supreme Court tonight debating the fate of a federal vaccine mandate for the nation's workers. Tonight, some justices questioning if the government has the legal power to impose it. Here's NBC's justice correspondent Pete Williams.
The court tonight seems prepared to block what the Biden administration calls a powerful tool for fighting COVID, a mandate that companies with more than 100 employees require their workers to get COVID vaccines or wear masks and take a weekly test. It applies to 80 million people. Businesses in red states sued. The CEO of this Minnesota trucking company says drivers who refuse to get vaccinated will quit and work for smaller firms, and that a testing requirement doesn't make sense for truckers.
Where are we going to get tested? There isn't semi-parking at clinics or Walgreens or CVS.
The rule was imposed by OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. The White House says it has authority over workplace hazards.
The bottom line, we're going to protect vaccinated workers from unvaccinated coworkers.
And today, the Supreme Court's liberals said the need is urgent.
It is by far the greatest public health danger that this country has faced in the last century. More and more people are dying every day.
We are now having deaths at an unprecedented amount. Catching COVID keeps people out of the workplace for extraordinary periods of time.
But the court's conservative majority was skeptical that OSHA has the legal authority to issue such a sweeping nationwide ruling.
If you're vaccinated while you're on the job, you're vaccinated when you're not on the job. Isn't this different from anything OSHA has done before in that respect?
Why doesn't Congress have a say in this, and why doesn't this be the primary responsibility of the states?
Pete joins us now from Washington. Pete, there's a little bit of confusion around this because the court is questioning the federal government in this case, but they could be ruling in favor of a vaccine mandate for healthcare workers.
Yeah, that did seem to be a likely outcome. The majority did seem to find that a much better fit, requiring vaccinations for the 20 million people who work in facilities that treat Medicare and Medicaid patients so that the healthcare workers don't spread the virus to the patients they're treating. And by the way, I think the court is likely to rule on both these cases very quickly. We could actually get the decisions within a few days.
Pete, a lot of companies out there already adopted this Biden workplace rule that the president was trying to pass. So my question is, if you worked at one of these companies that had that vaccine mandate and you were fired, does this now open the company to litigation?
No, because the companies can say they were following the federal law here. Remember that the OSHA requirement actually hasn't formally kicked in yet because it's been the subject of lots of lower court battles. The OSHA says it won't really require the companies to start imposing the mask mandate until next month.
Pete Williams for us tonight. Pete, thank you. And late today, another major headline, a judge handing down life sentences to the 3 men convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery, an unarmed black man who was shot and killed while jogging in Georgia. Arbery's parents there in the courtroom giving emotional testimony, remembering their son, saying their hearts will never heal. NBC's Katie Beck is at the courthouse tonight.
The father and son guilty of the 2020 murder of Ahmaud Arbery will spend the rest of their days behind bars.
A young man with dreams was gunned down in this community.
Judge Timothy Walmsley calling it accountability. For Greg and son Travis McMichael, a sentence of life without parole. And for neighbor William Bryan, a life sentence with the possibility of parole. The decision after hours of testimony, Ahmaud Arbery's parents describing broken hearts that will never heal.
Son, I love you as much today as I did today that you were born.
Attorneys for the defendants calling life without parole a punishment too severe.
Nothing in Travis McMichael's life suggests that he's a danger to society now, or will be a danger to society 30 years from now.
In the end, Judge Walmsley pointed to the McMichaels' lack of remorse, even pausing to reflect on Ahmaud's final moments. The 25-year-old was out for a jog when he was chased, shot, and killed. The judge noted Bryan, who did express remorse, earned a parole possibility because of it. As for Arbery's family, relief to see justice.
What will you go home with in your heart tonight?
The day that I laid Ahmaud to rest, I told him that we will get justice. I have finally fulfilled that promise to Ahmaud. We have justice for you. We got justice today.
Will you sleep soundly?
I will.
But this is not the final chapter for these 3 defendants. Next month, they will face hate crime charges in federal court, where we're told racial motives and new social media evidence will be presented. Arbery's mother says she wants accountability all over again.
Tom?
Katie Beck for us. Katie, thank you. We want to turn overseas to Kazakhstan now, where we've been following a week of deadly anti-government demonstrations. The president now ordering a ruthless crackdown, directing security forces to shoot to kill protesters, saying those who do not surrender will be eliminated. At least 26 people have already been killed since the start of the unrest. Here's NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel.
Facing mass protests sweeping the country, tonight, Kazakhstan's government escalated a deadly crackdown against protesters, giving security forces orders to shoot to kill. Clashes began this weekend after the government lifted fuel subsidies and gas prices nearly doubled. The protests quickly spread, with government buildings occupied and some burned. The Interior Ministry reports at least 26 what it calls armed terrorists and 18 security officers have been killed, 3,000 arrested. It's the biggest challenge to President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev's autocratic rule. In a televised address, the president called those protesting his rule terrorists. Those who don't surrender will be eliminated, he said. He's not working alone. Russia sent in several thousand troops to back up the government, with many more possibly on their way. They come at the request of the Kazakh government, which says Russia's presence is only temporary. Russia's expanded presence in Kazakhstan comes as the U.S., in talks on Monday, will try to pressure Russia to pull back nearly 100,000 troops from the border with nearby Ukraine. Tom, the government's actions do seem to be making some difference. Its willingness to both use and threaten force. You don't often hear these days governments saying that they are giving orders to shoot to kill, that they will fire without warning. And welcoming Russian troops and other neighboring troops does seem to have brought a degree of law and order, let's call it, fear, we could say, in Kazakhstan. We don't know how long it will last, but at least tonight, violence has died down some in Almaty, Kazakhstan's biggest city. Government forces have retaken the airport, and the government has restored some internet service. Tom?
Those violent clashes building there in Kazakhstan. Richard, thank you. Back here at home, we want to focus now on the U.S. economy and the latest report on the labor force. The U.S. added only 199,000 jobs in December, less than half of what economists had predicted. But at the same time, the unemployment rate fell once again, down to just 3.9%. Today, President Biden brushed off concerns about the labor market.
There's been a lot of press coverage about people quitting their jobs. Well, today's report tells you why. Americans are moving up to better jobs, with better pay, with better benefits. That's why they're quitting their jobs. This isn't about workers walking away and refusing to work. It's about workers able to take a step up to provide for themselves and their families.
President Joe Biden earlier today. CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman joins us now. Steve, great to have you here on Top Story tonight. I know it's your big debut on this show. People who love CNBC obviously know you so well. This report seemed to have more mixed messaging, right? Fewer jobs than expected, but an unemployment rate that's pretty close to the pre-pandemic rate of 3.5%. I want to add another number to the mix, though, so you can explain this to our viewers, because I think it's important. And this number, it should be included, I think, in a lot of the reporting on this issue. It's the labor force participation rate, and it remains unchanged at 61.9% amid an ongoing labor shortage in the U.S. You take all those numbers, break it down for our viewers.
Okay, I mean, those are three very important numbers right there. And like I like to say, if you're not confused, you're not paying attention. It's been very hard for the government, for all businesses, all forecasters to kind of forecast or really understand what's going on with the economy during this pandemic. Okay, one, you have a payroll number that missed badly and missed really 2 months in a row at 199,000. That's a survey that's done from information from businesses. The government has not done a good job at getting those numbers, and what's basically typically been happening is they've been revising them up as new data comes in. I'll give you an example. That 199 number, well, the last 2 months, they added 140,000 jobs from revision. So I'm not really paying a lot of attention to that number. It was definitely weaker than expected, but I expect that to be revised up. The unemployment number comes from a survey of 50,000 households. That number is not revised. That tells us the number of people who want to work, the number of people unemployed. That number has been very solid and showed pretty strong job growth. When I put that together with the anecdotes that are out there of employers saying it's hard to find workers, when you hear about the raises that are going on in the wages and the competition for workers, and you think about the signs you see on your main street there of help wanted signs, and even businesses that can't stay open because they don't have workers, it tells me that the better number to believe is this low unemployment rate and that the job market is tight and it's a pretty strong environment for workers right now.
So, Steve, since I have you here, I do want to get your take on the year ahead, because those latest stats we just talked about were actually done and recorded before Omicron took off. We're seeing a market sell-off tied in part to the Fed obviously raising rates. We're seeing some positive sign, at least positive talk, when it comes to the supply chain, which could help inflation. But there's still a lot going out there. All those things you mentioned anecdotally, which you do hear from employers all over the country. So what's your look at 2022?
So I think the Fed is going to raise interest rates. The Fed is looking at the inflation numbers that everybody's experiencing, and they had this wide open policy. If you can think about them really pushing down on the gas pedal to really accelerate the economy, they had it wide open during the pandemic. The economy has come a long way back from where it was, so the Fed's going to be easing off. You should have some increase in interest rates this year. On the other hand, we still have supply chain bottlenecks. They're easing a little bit according to some data, but let me explain to you what has to happen. Remember when you used to go to the car dealer and they would sort of beg you and give you a bargain and you could deal? You can't deal now. Why is that? They have some cars on the lots, but the idea is you have to get the manufacturing, the production going with the automobiles, and you have to have a lot of cars on the lots or a lot of cars over to manufacturing. So we have to resolve the supply chain bottlenecks. Then we got to get the production going. Then we got to get the inventory so you can go into the car dealer and make a deal. A lot of people I'm talking to say, you know what? Wait till the spring, because then they'll have not just the cars in the showroom, but the cars on the lot you can deal with. I think that's true for the whole economy. We got to build back the goods on the shelves, build back what's in inventory, then we can get to a more normal pricing environment. You should see inflation begin to come down during the year as all of that stuff unclogs in the economy.
All right, Steve Leisman for us tonight. Steve, thank you. We want to turn to some disturbing video out of North Carolina now. A deadly road rage incident caught on camera. Police saying the shooter fled the scene, but now he's been arrested and charged with murder. Maura Barrett has this story.
Shocking video showing a road rage incident quickly turned fatal. It only lasts 6 seconds. You see two men arguing near a motorcycle, the door of a truck open nearby. Then a shot. From inside the truck, police say, killing Stephen Addison, a veteran and a father of 3.
Stephen was a great guy. People always say someone lit up a room. My husband, he lit up every room he went into.
The video, sent to NBC's Raleigh affiliate and verified through details from the police and district attorney. Roger Nobles, the man inside the truck, initially fled the scene with his son, Roger Nobles Jr., the man seen in the video arguing with Addison, according to the Fayetteville Police Department.
Who could do that, kill somebody, and then just continue on with life like you didn't just do that?
Police say when they found the men, Noble Sr. admitted to the shooting. He was then arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The video, though brief, is revealing. WRAL spoke with security consultants who reviewed the footage and said they found the son's body language concerning, though we should note we don't know what happened before or after the video's duration. Ricky Davis with Rice Security and Consulting noticed Roger Nobles Jr. did not flinch when the shot was fired.
Once the shot was fired and then he looked at the victim, he didn't turn around and look at his father and saying, to make comments like, why did you do that? I didn't anticipate this or whatever. He just watched the victim fall and walked away.
Addison's ex-wife also distraught. This incident leaving her children fatherless too.
You killed my kid's father. And now he's not here.
All right, Maura Barrett joins us now live. So, Maura, the police chief and the district attorney say this is still an active investigation and more charges could be filed?
Right, Tom. So police right now are investigating whether race could have been a motivation in the shooting and could determine it a hate crime. And then they're also looking at the potential of a question on any charges for the son, though legal experts say that he had no legal obligation to stay at the scene of the crime, report it, or even help the victim. Tom.
And we have much more ahead tonight, an update on that tragic fire in Philadelphia. Investigators now looking into a young child playing with a lighter, possibly sparking that deadly blaze. And AirTag stalking, several women reporting someone has planted the Apple product on them and then tracked them. Our Vaughn Hilliard walks us through the notification you will get if you've been tagged. And the burning car rescue, how police battled relentless flames to pull a driver to safety. Stay with us. Top story, just getting started. Back now with a disturbing new trend, the Apple device called an AirTag now allegedly being used to track people without their knowledge. The Sports Illustrated model saying she was allegedly tracked on her way home after she claims someone planted an AirTag on her at a bar. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard has more.
Tonight, multiple police departments and several women sounding the alarm about an Apple product that can track one's whereabouts without them knowing.
Check your belongings, check your surroundings. It was the scariest moment ever.
The company began selling AirTags last year and now increasing concerns over potential nefarious use. Model Brooks Nader posted on her Instagram Thursday that she believes someone this week put one of the tracking devices into her jacket at a restaurant bar.
Once I was already on my walk home, halfway home, I got the notification that was like, someone's tracking you and has been for a while.
She says her iPhone alerted her to the AirTag device. NBC News has not been able to confirm Nader's account.
The concern is that an AirTag, it's this small. My producer Kevin just picked this up from the Apple store. He paired it up to his phone. We're gonna slip this into my jacket pocket and he's gonna track me all the way home.
After a subway ride for both of us and miles apart, now Kevin's app can see where me and the AirTag went.
Is the use of a GPS tracking device like this to follow someone, to stalk them, is that illegal?
When the tracking crosses the line to harassment or stalking, and there is no legitimate purpose for it, it becomes harassing and it becomes stalking. That, Vaughn, is illegal.
Police departments in multiple states have reported misuse of AirTags, including for domestic stalking and trying to steal cars. One in New York saying it had 2 reports in a month and urged residents to, quote, immediately contact the police or drive to the nearest police station. Apple says it set up its notification system as precaution to alert people that they may unknowingly be victims of stalking. The company in a statement writing in part, AirTag is designed with a set of proactive features to discourage unwanted tracking, a first in the industry, that both inform users if an unknown AirTag might be with them and deter bad actors from using an AirTag for nefarious purposes.
Super anxious, and I'm already an anxious person, so it totally didn't help.
Kimberly Stroop in Arizona says she received one of those alerts in September.
I don't leave my house I stopped any routine I had.
And you changed gyms.
I switched gyms, yeah.
She says she even sold her car. Anxiety still months later. And she says she walked into her local police department to report it.
Law enforcement told you that they wouldn't even take a report?
They didn't take my name. They didn't take my phone number. They didn't take a single thing.
We reached out to the police department, but they said they were unable to find an incident from that day. Our legal analyst says that action should be taken in similar situations.
If someone gets a notification on their phone that they have an AirTag that was unknowingly attached to them, and they go to law enforcement, what obligation does law enforcement have?
When they receive a complaint that there is harassment based on the placement or unknown placement of that type of device, they have the obligation to investigate.
I had no idea that these existed until it happened to me, so I'm kind of just trying to raise awareness and tell all my ladies out there to watch your belongings.
Yeah, incredibly important to get that out there. Vaughn Hilliard joins us now from here in New York, upstairs in 30 Rock at a studio. So, Vaughn, I got to tell you, there are reasons to be concerned about this because it's such a small and, frankly, accessible tracking device.
Yeah, we're talking about this thing right here.
Yeah.
And they say they've worked to build into the system, Apple has, what are essentially warning mechanisms. One, the AirTag is supposed to make a sound within 24 hours of its separation from the device it's paired to help one find a tag that may be unknowingly hidden. Secondly, for folks who have an iPhone, you're supposed to receive an alert on your phone of an AirTag in your presence. But even then, that alert, it takes hours to pop up. Our producer colleague Kevin and I separated from one another a good 6 hours ago now, and I've yet to receive that notification on my phone that this little tag has been in my possession. And I think it's important to note also, it's very precise. Kevin could see my location right down to my address. Now, if you have an Android, let's say Apple did release an app called Tracker Detect to the Google Play Store last month. You can see it there. But I want to note, though, that a user with an Android has to proactively scan for trackers themselves. And that's why these warnings are going out. This Apple product is still not widely known about yet. Tom?
Yeah, no, glad you're getting the word out tonight. All right, Vaughn, we thank you for that story. When we come back, the suspected Michigan high school shooter in court, his case now set to go to trial, and his parents also appearing before a judge today, the new ruling on their bonds. And the swimmer at the center of a debate over transgender athletes in sports, the backlash she's facing ahead of major meet, and the show of support from her university. Stay with us. All right, now to top stories news feed of the fiery rescue caught on camera. Body cam footage from police in Pasco County, Florida, rushing towards a vehicle that was engulfed in flames and partially over a guardrail on the highway. Deputies unable to extinguish the flames after several attempts, finally bending the driver's side door enough to pull the driver to safety. No word yet on the cause. An update now on that deadly apartment fire in Philadelphia we brought you a couple days ago. The city's fire department confirming to NBC News they are investigating whether a child playing with a lighter near a Christmas tree started that blaze. At least 12 people were killed, including 8 children. Authorities also investigating why none of the building's smoke detectors were working. And the teenager charged with killing 4 people at a Michigan high school appearing before a judge today. 15-year-old Ethan Crumley waiving his right to a preliminary hearing, meaning the case will go straight to trial. He's being charged as an adult on several charges, including murder and terrorism. A judge today also refusing to lower the $500,000 bonds for Crumley's parents. They're facing involuntary manslaughter charges in connection to those shootings. Turning now to the controversy surrounding transgender athletes. Much of it has been focused on Penn State, UPenn swimmer Leah Thomas. She has been breaking swimming records all year, sparking the anger of students, parents, and even some lawmakers. Here's NBC's Ann Thompson.
UPenn swimmer Leah Thomas with a sea of support as she prepares for this weekend's tri-school meet. The transgender athlete, backed by Penn Athletics, saying Thursday that Thomas has met or exceeded all NCAA protocols for a transgender female student athlete to compete for a women's team. Welcomed by the Ivy League, reaffirming its commitment Thursday to provide an inclusive environment for all student athletes and condemning transphobia and discrimination in any form.
I'm just thrilled to be able to continue to swim.
Controversy is brewing as Thomas smashes records, some in the sport questioning whether she has an unfair advantage. Following NCAA guidelines after a year of hormone replacement therapy, Thomas was granted the chance to swim on the women's team. After 2.5 years of such therapy, last month, she recorded the fastest times in college swimming in the 200 and 500-yard freestyle and won the 1650 freestyle, beating her nearest competitor by 38 seconds. The editor-in-chief of Swimming World magazine, John Lone, writing an op-ed last month, saying Thomas's competition in championships could create, quote, an indisputably unfair setting. Lone noting that Thomas could approach champion Katie Ledecky's freestyle record. University of Pennsylvania leadership says it's heard criticism from students and parents, several of whom reportedly sent a letter to the NCAA demanding changes to the rules. The NCAA did not respond to NBC News' request for comment. Thomas, seen with her teammates in these DailyMail.com images, told the Swim Swam podcast last month that her journey started in 2018. That's when Thomas realized she was transgender. A year later, coming out to the entire team and beginning to transition. taking testosterone suppressants and estrogen to become Leah.
I've experienced a lot of muscle loss and strength loss.
From school teams to the Olympics, transgender athletes are facing increased scrutiny in sports.
There's just not that much data available on how gender-affirming hormones change their athletic performance.
Thomas painted a different picture for the Swim Swam podcast.
I feel very supported, just treated like any other member of the women's team.
Ann Thompson, NBC News, New York.
All right, we thank Ann for that. Coming up, the volcanic eruption, the world's tallest volcano, spewing ash more than 12,000 feet over the Galapagos Islands. What officials are saying about the threat to the area's famous wildlife. Stay with us. All right, now to top stories global watch. Authorities say an SUV filled with 10 bodies was left outside the office of a Mexican state governor. The gruesome discovery made in Zacatecas next to a Christmas tree in the city square. Turf wars between rival gangs making it one of the most violent regions in the country. On the Gulf Coast, 9 bodies found on the side of the road. A note threatening authorities was attached and signed by the Jalisco cartel. All right, we turn to Haiti now, where 2 journalists were shot and killed by a gang. It happened outside Port-au-Prince yesterday in disputed territory between rival gangs. A 3rd reporter was able to escape the attack. It's the latest in a string of killings and kidnappings journalists in the country have been facing. Authorities have not yet identified any suspects. And the world's tallest mountain volcano is erupting. Take a look. Ash and lava spewing from the 5,600-foot volcano on the Galapagos Islands. A cloud of gas and ash reaching more than 12,000 feet above sea level. Officials say there's no risk to humans or wildlife right now. At least 8 people studying the island's critically endangered pink iguanas were evacuated.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.